Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Spinnaker Challenger Automatic Depth Blue. This watch is available from spinnakerwatches.com for €406. So firstly, let's look at the hard shell travel case that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So the watch comes in a hard shell travel case which is housed inside this outer cardboard box. This is the hard shell travel case. On the lid we have a contrasting Spinnaker emblem, and good attention to detail because on the zip pull it's made from rubber and embossed with Spinnaker in contrasting 3D effect rubber. So I'll show you the interior. In the underside of the lid we have an elasticated web pocket with a Spinnaker label, so good presentation and attention to detail. This elasticated web pocket houses the warranty card, owner's instruction manual and FKM floor rubber strap. In the base there's a block of foam with a cutout, and inside the cutout we have this profiled piece of foam. So the watch sits on this piece of foam inside the cutout, which is a snug fit, and it does a good job of protecting the watch in shipping from any damage. So good presentation, good quality hard shell travel case, and I think it's appropriate for a low tier piece at this price point, €406. With regards to items that come with the piece, this is the plastic warranty card. On the reverse there's space for retailer stamp, reference number and date of purchase. There's also a QR code you can scan with your Android or iPhone that will register your watch with spinnakerwatches.com and also activate the 2-year international warranty. The terms and conditions are detailed, and I want to give due credit to Spinnaker here because often low tier pieces are only covered by a 12-month international warranty. To get 2 years of international warranty is excellent, and Spinnaker deserve full credit for that. One also gets this owner's instruction manual, clear concise diagrams. The instructions are in English and also translated into a plethora of foreign languages. There's also a QR code on the front so you can scan with your Android or iPhone. That will download more information about Spinnaker watches and also this Challenger piece specifically. Now inside this plastic bag, this houses the warranty card, but I've put the sticker that comes on the case back to show it to you. So as an alternative to scanning the QR code on the warranty card, as you can see, you can activate the warranty that way, or alternatively you can simply scan the QR code on the caseback sticker as shown, and that will also register the watch with spinnakerwatches.com and activate the 2-year international warranty from the date of purchase. One also gets this tag, as you can see, which says Spinnaker on one side, and on the reverse we have the full reference number of the piece and also the barcode. And lastly, as an alternative to the oyster style bracelet that comes fitted to the head of the piece, one also gets this FKM floor rubber strap. So good attention to detail because on the end of the strap we have the Spinnaker emblem embossed to a good standard. Plenty of holes in the strap, so this will fit from a minimum 6-inch wrist size up to a maximum 8-inch wrist size. It's smooth on the underside and also the top side, so it feels very comfortable against the wrist. Good attention to detail because we've got quick release stainless steel spring bars rather than standard spring bars, so therefore that negates the need for a spring bar tool if you want to exchange the bracelet on the head of the piece for this FKM floor rubber strap. The bracelet end links also have quick release spring bars. As you can see, it's a very thick strap. It has these expansion and contraction waves in it. Now the purpose of these waves, if you wear this watch for seawater diving, with the pressure of the seawater, it causes the strap to contract around your wetsuit. So, by having these waves, it allows the strap to expand and contract. So when you're underwater and the strap contracts on wrist, this allows for the strap to move even if it is tight on the wrist around the wetsuit. So very good attention to detail. Now in terms of how supple it is, FKM floor rubber really is a compromise between natural rubber and also silicone rubber, so it's in between the two. Silicone rubber is more soft and supple, but the negative is that it is not as robust and durable. FKM floor rubber is harder, therefore it's not as soft and supple as silicone rubber, but it is more robust and reliable, and long-term durability is better. And it's not as hard as natural rubber or nitrile butadiene rubber. Nitrile butadiene rubber really is the ultimate because it is chemical resistant, acid resistant and UV resistant. Nitrile butadiene rubber is used in high quality rubber straps because it's also used in the automotive and aeronautical industry due to its properties of being chemical and UV resistant. But this FKM floor rubber strap really is a good compromise. It's soft and supple, so it's more soft and supple than natural rubber or nitrile butadiene rubber, not as soft and supple as silicone rubber, but more durable. Does feel very smooth. Now, although it's thick, it's not going to require any breaking in because it does have several holes in it, and that does make it nice and flexible. Quality of the finishing is good. It's a high quality strap. I'll show you the buckle and tang side. So, solid 316L grade stainless steel buckle and tang, angular profile, brushed satin finish to the top side, underside and flanks, nice heavy gauge, and it's engraved with high definition engraving with the Spinnaker text logo, as you can see. Good quality buckle and tang, and I like the bevels on it, and also no sharp edges, doesn't have sharp corners. It does look very aesthetically pleasing, beautiful lustre to it. So again, it's not as soft and supple as silicone rubber. It is a thick strap, 2 sliding keepers, and again we've got the expansion and contraction waves in it, which allows the strap to contract around a wetsuit when it's under pressure, underwater, for use for seawater diving. So nice and smooth on the underside, and I'm pleased to see quick release spring bars, and it's good quality. So good to get that included as an alternative to the Oyster style bracelet. So with regards to the specifications of the piece, we have a 42mm case diameter, we have a lug-to-lug measurement of 49.2mm, a thickness of 18.4mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The Oyster style bracelet tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to 18mm at the 2-button push flip-lock clasp. The 2-button push flip-lock clasp is solid 316L grade stainless steel, brushed satin finish to the body, the flip-lock and also the flanks. And it's a light gauge of pressed 316L grade stainless steel, so I'm going to be critical of it. Really, this is unacceptable at this price point of €406. This is the kind of pressed stainless steel clasp one would expect on a low tier piece below €100, not at the €406 price point. So to clarify, the low tier is €0 to €500 price point, the mid tier is €500 plus. So at €406, this is a low tier piece, but it is at the upper end of the low tier, which finishes at €500. This really is unacceptable at the €406 price point. The other negative is there are only 3 micro adjustment holes in the flanks. I'd like to see a longer clasp used with 4 or 5 micro adjustments. Alternatively, a ratcheting micro adjustment mechanism, because this really does not give enough adjustment on the size of the bracelet. The other negative of the Oyster style bracelet is it only has full-sized links. There are no half links on the 6 o'clock and the 12 o'clock side of the clasp. Sometimes adding or subtracting one full Oyster style link does not give the desired fit. The bracelet will either be too tight or too loose. By having half links either side of the clasp, that better fine-tunes the fit. So by adding or subtracting a half link, you can centralise the clasp but also get the perfect fit with the absence of a micro adjustment clasp. So really, Spinnaker should consider updating this with half links and also a ratcheting mechanism micro adjustment clasp, because that would better meet the specification of a €406 price point piece. We have a double dome sapphire crystal with clear AR coating on the underside, and the clear anti-reflective coating does an excellent job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the silver applied indices and silver baton handset. Now, the indices and the handset are brushed satin finish, which does reduce some of the reflective nature of them. Had they been mirror polished, that would make them more shiny and reflective like a mirror. This is a very high domed crystal, as you can see, and it does add significant thickness to the piece. Now, I appreciate that this piece is inspired by the Challenger, which explores the Mariana Trench, and therefore it does have, like the Picard, which is the larger version of this, a very high domed, double domed sapphire crystal. But I think the dome of it is too high and the crystal is too thick, because although it's a double domed sapphire crystal rather than single domed, when you tilt the piece at an oblique angle, one does get the characteristic distortion and magnification effect. So to clarify, a single dome sapphire crystal is flat on the underside and domed on the top side. A double dome sapphire crystal is curved on the underside and on the top side. So a double dome sapphire crystal is beneficial versus a single dome, because a single dome crystal acts like a magnifying glass or lens, and regardless of the thickness, it has a magnification effect, and when you tilt the piece at an oblique angle, it also distorts the dial and handset, so the legibility is reduced with a single dome sapphire crystal. With a double dome sapphire crystal, it's curved on the underside, and that reduces the magnification effect but also improves the legibility and the clarity of the dial and hands. So this uses a double dome sapphire crystal, but the distortion and magnification is still apparent, especially when you tilt the piece at an oblique angle. Purely down to the thickness, it's a very thick, high domed double dome sapphire crystal, rather like a magnifying lens, as you can see. So legibility is poor when you tilt the piece at an oblique angle due to the distortion effect and the magnification effect. When you view the piece straight on, it's better, and one does get the benefit of it being curved on the underside rather than flat on the underside, but I think they've made the crystal too thick. And I appreciate it's inspired by the Picard, which is the larger version, and this is a Challenger inspired watch, but aesthetically, yes, it does look good, but in terms of practicality, the legibility is poor when you view it at an oblique angle. The dial is textured, it's 3D finish, and it has a metallic finish to it, and it's meant to be inspired by the seabed or the base of the ocean, and because it has this 3D effect to it, and it does catch the light. So it changes from an electric blue to a darker navy blue depending on the light conditions. It is shiny and reflective, it does have a nice finishing to it, textured finish, nice 3D effect. So the dial is a sector dial because we have a crosshair in the top portion of it and a frame date complication at 6 o'clock. Legibility is good, symmetry of the dial is good, proportion of the handset is correct, although the minute hand does look too short. Contrasting orange tip adds to the legibility of it, but if you look at the second hand, you can see it looks too short. It doesn't extend to the rail track chaptering. So I think they should have made the second hand longer. The baton minute hand is long enough, and the shorter hour hand is correctly proportioned, but the minute hand does look undersized for this size of dial, and it's a shame they just didn't make it slightly longer. The dial isn't overbranded with the necessary text or specification, and I want to give due credit to Spinnaker here because often low-tier brands have a tendency to print too much information, too much specification on the dial. We simply have the applied silver Spinnaker logo at 12 o'clock, which is good, and then automatic in contrasting orange, which complements the orange second hand, and then the water resistance rating 1000 feet equals 300 meters, just the right amount of information. So symmetry of the dial is good, has crosshair sector on the top portion, and the lower portion doesn't have the crosshair on it because we need to have space for the text and also the date complication at 6. So I like the symmetry of the dial. Rather than being asymmetrical with the date complication at 3 o'clock, they've cited it at 6, and that retains the symmetry of the dial. With regards to the bezel, it's solid 316L grade stainless steel, coin edge finished, nice large mirror polished bevel, which deletes, chamfer, which deletes the sharp tips to the coin edge teeth. It's low profile with an undercut. It's grippy and tactile. The teeth aren't sharp and they are correctly proportioned. Fully loomed ceramic bezel insert is navy blue, very aesthetically pleasing, and it's inlaid with Swiss superluminova, which is green C3. So I like the dots for the minute ticks, and we've got the first 15 minutes, the first quarter of the bezel indexed with minute ticks. The circular dots add interest to it, and also at the 30-minute and 45-minute marks, we've got these rectangular shape markers rather than the dot circles, and we've got a triangle as opposed to a Lume pip at the 12 o'clock position. So legibility is good, nice glossy finish to the ceramic, it's well finished. I like the navy tone to it, which complements the blue textured dial, and also the inlay is very good with the Swiss superluminova. Solid 316L grade stainless steel crown, coin edge finished, nice large chamfer which deletes the sharp tips to the coin edge teeth, and it's signed with the Spinnaker emblem to a good standard with high definition engraving. So let's test the screw down crown and bezel execution. Now the crown feels smooth, but it's not silky smooth. One can feel some friction, so to clarify, it doesn't feel rough or gritty, that's the benefit. It does unscrew smoothly, but there is a lot of friction. You can feel the resistance, so I'll describe it as a stiff screw down crown. It unscrews with a minimal number of turns, so that's good, and 300 meters is strong specification, but however, the friction is caused by two things. The metal to metal rubbing against each other, so the internal thread of the stainless steel crown meshing against the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. You can feel the stainless steel rubbing against the stainless steel, so there's room for improvement with regards to the refinements, the quality control, build quality and tolerances of the machining of the threads. The other friction is caused by the rubber O-ring gasket, so there's two rubber O-ring hermetic seals. One rubber O-ring gasket inside the crown, which provides an effective hermetic seal to the end of the stainless steel crown tube. There's a second rubber O-ring gasket inside the crown tube itself, which hermetically seals the winding stem to the crown tube internally. Now, the two rubber O-ring gaskets, you can feel the friction. So there's friction of the rubber O-ring rubbing against the winding stem. The second rubber O-ring, you can feel the friction of it rubbing against the end of the stainless steel crown tube. Added together, the cumulative effect is there is too much friction. So you've got the friction of the rubber O-rings added to the friction of the threads meshing, and you can feel it stiff as a result. It does feel smooth, it doesn't feel rough or gritty, but it just doesn't feel silky smooth. They simply need to machine the threads deeper, so the internal thread of the stainless steel crown better meshes with the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. They also need to improve the tolerances of the rubber O-ring gaskets inside the crown tube and also inside the crown itself to reduce the friction. So it is possible to do it, and I think at €406 it's not good enough. So when it's fully unscrewed, we're now in the manual wind position, and one can manually wind the Seiko caliber NH35A automatic to its maximum 41-hour power reserve. Feels smooth to manually wind, one can feel the tension in the mainspring gradually building up. Nice medium resistance to it, the meshing of the gearing works very well, feels nice and smooth, doesn't feel rough or gritty. I like the feeling of manually winding the NH35A. You'll know from my previous reviews, it's one of my personal favourite movements. So, when the mainspring is fully unwound and exhausted and the movement has stopped dead, 40 full clockwise turns is enough to fully wind it to its maximum 41 hours. So it feels pleasant to manually wind. Pulling it out to the first click position is the quick set date complication. So if you look at the silver framed date window at 6 o'clock, you can see the quick set complication clicks over with a nice positive click. So how it feels heavier than a Miyota 8215 and also a Miyota 9015 respectively, which you may be familiar with. I like the heavy clicking sensation of the quick set date complication. It's a characteristic of the NH35A. The white Arabic numerals contrast very well with the black date wheel. Legibility is good. The font is crisp and sharp. It's not too thick. It's not blurry. So the quality of the printing of the white Arabic numerals is good. Legibility is good, despite the thickness of the double-domed, high-domed sapphire crystal. And I like the framing at the 6 o'clock position. It's not too deep. The dial isn't too thick, despite being textured, so it doesn't cast a permanent shadow around the date complication. Both the singles and the double Arabic numerals are aligned correctly. They're not too far to the left or the right of the date window, and they're not too high or too low. So the symmetry is good, bang on the centre, both with the singles and the doubles. I like the heavy clicking sensation. Pulling it out to the second click position hacks the movement. If you look at the contrasting orange second hand, you can see it's now stopped dead. So therefore it's possible to set the time precisely to the second with the caliber NH35A automatic. So we're now in the time setting position. Light resistance to the gearing. It has 24 joules, so it's a low friction movement. And it feels very smooth, both clockwise and anti-clockwise. Feels pleasant to cycle through the 12 hours and set the time. Minimal backplay. There's an almost immediate response when you rotate the crown clockwise and anti-clockwise. The baton minute hand almost immediately responds. Minimal backplay. Some backplay is necessary in the meshing of the gearing, because if it didn't have some play or some slack, when you push back in the crown, it would cause the minute hand to jump out of position. So one does need some slight backplay in the meshing of the gearing, but it works very well. Manual winding feels good. Setting the date feels good. Setting the time feels good. The hacking works well, as well as the quick set date complication. Let's test pushing it back down. Nice positive click, and that restarts the movements. Just bear with me, I'll pull it out again and push it back in. And there you can see the contrasting orange second hand begins to sweep around the dial once again. Let's test screwing it back down. Instant thread pickup. So there's a perfect interface between the internal thread of the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. The threads do pick up, they interface perfectly, so that's good. The quality control and tolerances are good, but they just do not feel silky smooth. They simply need to machine the threads deeper, both the internal thread of the stainless steel crown, and when they cut the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube, they need to machine the threads deeper. That would reduce the friction and improve the meshing of the threads. So they just need to improve the tolerances of the machining of the threads. That would make it silky smooth and reduce the friction. So it works okay, it's smooth, it's not rough or gritty, but it's just not silky smooth. So let's test the bezel execution. 120 click unidirectional bezel, as one would expect. Medium firm resistance, I like it. Feels even all the way through the 360 degrees of rotation, doesn't get heavier or lighter, which is good. Feels smooth, nice loud audible clicks, sounds good and feels good. So in terms of resistance, it feels heavier than a Steel Divesti 1953, also feels heavier than a Pagani designed PD1661, which you may be familiar with. Feels more like a Seiko 5KX, it's got that medium firm resistance to it. No lateral side-side play whatsoever, which is good. No back play, so it feels nice and tight. I like that it's a tight bezel execution with no play. Loud audible clicks sound good and feel good, feel smooth. I like the even resistance. I also like the feeling that it's tight with no lateral side play or no back play. Let's just check the alignment. One more click. Perfect. The Lume triangle inlaid in the ceramic bezel insert perfectly aligns with the 12 o'clock index on the dial and the 60-minute tick on the rail track chapter ring. So 10 out of 10 bezel execution. Spinnaker deserve credit for the perfect bezel execution. This is an example to other low tier micro brands at this price point, €406, of how to get bezel execution correct. Everything about it is just right. It feels balanced, it doesn't feel too heavy or too light. The resistance feels even through the 360 degrees of rotation, which is good. No lateral side play, no back play. Perfect alignment, bang on 12 o'clock, bang on the 60-second on the chapter ring minute tick. Excellent, very satisfying bezel execution, feels good, sounds good. So let's look at the bracelet and clasp in detail. So female pivoted end links are the correct choice because that reduces the lug to lug measurement and also allows the end link in the oyster style bracelet to articulate better. So feels smooth, doesn't feel stiff or kink, which is good. However, the negative is we've got excess longitudinal, lateral, side to side, up and down play in every single direction. So significant lateral side to side play, 1mm of play, and it rattles. It's sloppy. One can be magnanimous about excess play in a female pivoted end link with the €100 and below price point in the low tier. This is €406. We're at the upper end of the low tier. As I've detailed, €500 is the max. This is not acceptable. It's sloppy, it rattles, play in every direction. Now the worst play is side to side. It's got 1mm of play laterally and it clicks. On a positive note, the bracelet is finished well with the brushed satin finishing to the top side, underside and flanks. Beautiful luster to it, nice fine grained satin finishing. So finishing is good, aesthetically it looks good, beautiful luster. Doesn't feel stiff or kink, so that's the benefit. No stiff links, so articulates freely, that's the benefit. But it rattles, it's sloppy. Every one of the push pins in the oyster style links has excess lateral, longitudinal, up and down play, and the cumulative effect across the length of the bracelet is it's sloppy, it rattles. So the benefit is it doesn't feel stiff or kink, articulates freely. The negative is it rattles, it's sloppy. They've used push pins, which are split pins, as a cost-cutting measure rather than push pins and collars, which would tighten up the tolerances. At this price point, €406 in the low tier, I'd prefer to see 1.2 or 1.6mm screw pins used. That would tighten up the tolerances and reduce the slack in the bracelet. The negative of using split pin push pins is the tolerances are poor. This is simply caused by the holes being drilled too large and the pins being undersized. The diameter is too small and therefore you don't get an interference friction fit, you get a sloppy fit, as you can see. So if they use screw pins, that would tighten up the bracelet, or alternatively they could use push pins which are solid rather than split pins, and collars. Push pins and collars can tighten up tolerances, alternatively screw pins. So disappointing. Let's check the other side for continuity. Again, female pivoted end link articulates freely, feels smooth, doesn't feel stiff or kink, but it rattles. Lateral, side to side, up and down, longitudinal play, and it's significant. 1mm of side to side play is wholly unacceptable. As I've detailed, one could be magnanimous about excess play at the €100 and below price point. This is €406, wholly unacceptable to have this amount of play. It's dreadful. Also, we've got excess play in all the push pin links, as you can see. It rattles, it's sloppy. Now on a positive note, doesn't feel stiff or kink, articulates freely, but it's just sloppy. And it's disappointing because the finishing is good. Visually, it looks very aesthetically pleasing because it has a beautiful luster. No sharp edge to the top edge or the lower edge of the flanks. It doesn't pull arm hair, so it does feel comfortable on wrist. Now, I would say the taper is too large. There's too much meat on the bracelet because it tapers from 20mm down to 18. The perfection personified taper that I always refer to in my previous reviews is 20 to 16. This is a 42mm head of the piece, so the industry standard tapers are 20 to 16 or alternatively 22 to 18. 20 to 18 isn't as popular, it doesn't look visually as aesthetically pleasing and also adds too much meat to the bracelet, so this would look better with the perfection personified 20 to 16 taper, although 20 to 18 is okay. Let's look at the clasp in detail. So as I've detailed, Solid 316L grade stainless steel clasp, but it's a very light gauge. Now on a positive note, there's no sharp edge to the top edge, the low edge, and also the undercuts to the flanks. So it feels comfortable. Doesn't have sharp corners. They've been deburred and chamfered very well, but the flip block is a very light gauge. The body is light gauge. It's pressed stainless steel rather than being solid milled stainless steel. So the flip lock works well. 2-button push triggers are brushed satin finished, deburred and chamfered very well. There's no sharp edges, heavily sprung loaded, so they feel reliable and robust. The internals are solid mill 316L grade stainless steel, but there's a glaring error, which is embarrassing. They've engraved stainless steel upside down. It needs to be inverted. So to clarify why I say it's upside down, the majority of collectors wear the piece on the left wrist versus the right wrist. So this is the orientation of the watch. You take it off your left wrist and turn it round this way, and then you open the clasp as so, from left to right. And as you can see, when you open it left to right, stainless steel is engraved upside down. They simply need to engrave it the other way up. This is embarrassing. One could be magnanimous about these kind of errors below €100 in the low tier. This is a low tier piece at the upper end costing 406. Wholly unacceptable. It's embarrassing for them to make these kind of mistakes. Let's check the hinge pins. Left hand hinge pin articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink. That's the benefit. It's sloppy. Lateral, side to side, up and down, play in every direction. So it rattles. Center hinge pin has excess play. Lateral, longitudinal, side to side, up and down play. The most worst play is left to right, side to side lateral play. It's 1mm. It's dreadful. It clicks. And it's very sloppy. My concern is long-term durability because this pin has riveted ends. And when you have riveted ends in an elongated hole, which is too large, how long is it going to be before the excess shear load on the riveted pin causes it to shear? Either the rivets will wear off in the elongated holes, or the pin itself will shear because of the excess shear load. When you have an undersized diameter pin in an elongated hole or an oversized hole, it puts the pin under excess shear load, and then eventually it fails with daily wear and tear. Let's check the right hand hinge pin. Articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, but it's sloppy. Play in every single direction. Now, cumulative effect of this is excess play in left hand, centre and right hand hinge pins. The mill clasp is sloppy. It rattles. And as I've detailed, my concern is long-term durability. How long is it going to be before this mill clasp fails? It's dreadful. If this were below €100, I would be magnanimous about it. But not €406. It's a disgrace to Spinnaker. This is not acceptable. Embarrassing, they've engraved it upside down, and of course the 3 hinge pins are sloppy. Now, on a positive note, there's no sharp edges to the centre section, so the corners have been deburred and chamfered well, and the undercuts to the flanks on the top side and the underside have been deburred and chamfered very well, so it doesn't feel sharp. The edges have been deburred well on the top side and the underside. The finishing is good. Beautiful lustre to the top side, underside and flanks. They just need to tighten up the tolerances of the 3 hinge pins and engrave stainless steel the other way up. Unfortunately, that's not the only problem I want to bring to your attention. It's got this abhorrent pressed stainless steel diver's extension link. Now, at this price point, one would expect at the very minimum a solid milled ease-link style extension. For example, Pagani Design are using solid milled diver's extension links on their Pagani Design PD1661, and that's below the €100 price point. This is €406. This pressed stainless steel diver's extension link is wholly unacceptable. It's very light gauge. They haven't even mirror polished it. It's simply matte bead-blasted effect to cut production costs in order to maximise profit margin per piece. That's not the only problem. The spring bar, which secures it to the body, is sloppy. As you can see, it rattles. Excess play in every direction. The centre hinge pin, which is riveted, also has excess play. It rattles. It's sloppy. Side to side play is dreadful. The right hand pin, which is a push pin, articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, but again, excess play in every direction. Lateral, longitudinal, side to side, up and down play. It's sloppy. Cumulative effect, spring bar, centre riveted pin and push pin on the right, all 3 pins. Dreadful. Look at the amount of play. It rattles. My concern is long-term durability. How long is it going to be before it fails? Due to the excess shear load, due to the excess play. This should be deleted. It's a disgrace to Spinnaker. This does not say to me €406. This says to me below €100. This should not be present on a €406 price point piece. On a positive note, it does snap into the body with a nice positive click, and it does deploy with a nice positive click, but they should delete it. It looks dreadful, it rattles, it's sloppy. So poor quality clasp, poor quality tolerances, dreadful diver's extension link. So let's look at the case back in detail. Solid 316L grade stainless steel case back, engraved with high definition engraving, and the circumference is engraved with the specification and the reference number of the piece. Concentric CNC lathe tool machining to it is good. I like the way it refracts the light. Quality of the engraving is very sharp and crisp, but it doesn't feel rough or scratchy, so it feels smooth and comfortable. The milled slots are deburred and chamfered very well, so no sharp edges to the milled slots. Feels comfortable. Now, it's a very deep bubble back case back, as you can see. Look at the profile. I appreciate this is 300 metres of hermetic seal versus 200, so it's strong specification. But within an H35A, which is a thick movement, it does need additional clearance around the rotor. But however, the bubble back case back does not need to be this deep. This piece is incredibly thick, and that's largely due to the high dome of the double dome sapphire crystal. But it's 18.4mm. They really need to reduce the thickness of the case back to reduce the thickness of this piece. It's far too deep. Bubble back case back is too deep. The rotor does not need this amount of clearance beneath the case back, and they could reduce this by 1mm quite easily, and it would still provide an effective hermetic seal to 300 metres. So bubble back case back means the head of the piece sits too proud from the wrist, and I'll show you that in the wrist shot. It really is too thick. So it's disappointing. The case back is well finished, and 300 metres is strong specification. Engraving is good, and it's been very well brushed out in finish, but the problem is it's just too thick. On a positive note, the underside to the head of the piece is finished to a very good standard. Flawless mirror polishing to the underside to the head of the piece, nice large bevels to the undercuts, which deletes the sharp edge to the undercuts. The tips of the 4 lugs have been deburred and chamfered very well, so the quality of the finishing to the underside to the head of the piece is excellent, and they deserve credit for that. Female pivotal end links are solid, and we also have stainless steel quick release spring bars, which is good. So that negates the need for a spring bar tool if you want to exchange the oyster style bracelet for the FKM floor rubber strap included. So good to see quick release spring bars used. That makes it easy to change the bracelet for the strap. So I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now I haven't sized the bracelet, and I can easily slide 2 fingers beneath bracelet and clasp at all times. So very long oyster style bracelet. This indicates that this would fit up to a very large wrist of even 9 inches. There are enough removable links on the 6 o'clock and the 12 o'clock side to size this down to a minimum 6-inch wrist size up to a maximum 9-inch wrist size. Now bear in mind, I'm on position 3 out of 3, the largest of the micro adjustments, so this is on its absolute maximum. The thing to note is there is a lot of meat on this bracelet. It tapers from 20 to 18, so it is a heavy bracelet. This does add heft to the piece, and it's already a very hefty piece due to the very thick high dome double dome sapphire crystal. The case is also very thick. It's 180 grams, which is very heavy for 42mm. So this would really benefit had they used the perfection personified taper of the oyster style bracelet. Had they used 20 to 16, that would reduce a lot of the meat and the heft on the bracelet. That would reduce it by circa 20 grams down to a more comfortable 160 grams. Now, I appreciate that it does have a lot of links. Even I would remove 4 links from this bracelet to fit my large 8-inch wrist. I would straight away say if you have a smaller 6 to 7-inch wrist, this is too large. 42mm is too much wrist presence, and also it's a long case, 49.2. Spinnaker have made an error here because 48mm is the sweet spot. I often refer to it in my previous reviews as the sweet spot because 48mm lug to lug measurement fits all collector wrist sizes, 6 to 7-inch wrist and 7 to 8-inch wrist respectively. At 49.2, the case is too long. Even for my large 8-inch wrist, there is some overhang on the tips of the lugs. They do curve around the wrist very well. There is a nice large bevel undercut, which deletes some of the meat from the flanks of the case. Visually, it does look low profile, but it does feel and look like a slab of 316L grade stainless steel. It's a thick case. And it's also very tall with a double dome sapphire crystal. 18.4 is a very top heavy, thick piece. Doesn't feel comfortable, does not feel balanced. It feels far too heavy at 180 grams. There's too much meat on the bracelet. The clasp is too light. It needs to be heavier, solid milled. That would better balance the head of the piece and the bracelet. What it feels like is a thick, heavy bracelet with too much meat, and then a very light pressed stainless steel clasp, which is too lightweight. This really needs, to balance the head of the piece and the meat of the bracelet, a solid milled clasp with a micro adjustment, a larger clasp. This looks undersized on a 20 to 18 bracelet. In terms of comfort level, the comfort level is poor. Now, the bracelet doesn't feel sharp, there's no sharp edges to the flanks, and it doesn't pull arm hairs. So why do I say uncomfortable? Well, simply down to the heft of it. It's too thick. Also, the links are very thick, both in width and also thickness. There's just too much meat on the bracelet for comfort. Now, of course, one could wear this on the F-Chem floor rubber strap included. That would make it more comfortable, but it's too long. 49.2 is 1.2 millimeters too long. Had they made this 40 diameter by 48, it would make it more wearable. That would increase the comfort level and increase the feel-good factor, because as it stands at 42, it wears with too much wrist presence, even on my large 8-inch wrist. 49.2 is even too large for my 8-inch wrist. Too much overhang. There's a gap beneath the tips of the lugs, and even with a large undercut to the flanks, you can see it sits too tall on the wrist, like a slab of 316L grade stainless steel. It's a shame. They should have made this 40 by 48 with a perfection personified taper 20 to 16. That would reduce it to circa 150 grams. The comfort level would be better, feel-good factor would be better. So top heavy piece, the heft of it is excessive at 180 grams. This is not going to be comfortable to wear for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day. The other problem is the thickness, which is obvious. It's very tall, 18.4. So you'll know from my previous reviews, the sweet spot is 13mm and below, because that means a piece can be worn as a daily wear piece and easily slip underneath shirt cuffs if you wear business shirts. Needless to say, at 18.4, this is not going to slip underneath the shirt cuff. It's tall, it's thick, it's top heavy, and the distortion also gives poor legibility when you view the piece at an oblique angle, as you can see. Magnification effect and distortion is too much, as you can see. They should have used a lower domed, double domed sapphire crystal. That would reduce the magnification effect and also the distortion. That would improve the legibility, because you have to view the piece directly straight on in order to be able to read the time and the date. When you tilt it slightly, it immediately begins, it immediately begins to distort. So this is the problem with the thick double dome sapphire crystal. Right, so let's do a Lume test and we'll see how the Lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So this uses Swiss Superluminova, and they've used two types, C3 and also BGW9. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, we have BGW9 on the inlaid ceramic bezel insert, which is a darker blue tone than the usual lighter blue BGW9. And on the dial and handset, we have green C3. Now, I prefer watches just to use one colour lume, either C3 throughout or BGW9 throughout. So either green throughout on the bezel, dial and hands, alternatively C3, which is green. This is subjective. I appreciate some collectors like to see both BGW9 and C3 used on a watch, but the problem with this piece is they haven't applied the same number of layers. Now, if you look at the performance of the BGW9 on the bezel insert, the exciter doesn't have the same potency as the dial and hands. So this indicates that we've got 5 to 6 layers applied on the dial and hands, which is the industry standard and optimum. But on the ceramic bezel insert, it looks like 3 to 4 layers, because you can see the potency of the exciter isn't as bright. It's fading quicker. So I'm just going to charge this up again. And with the camera auto-focusing on it, you can see the exciter doesn't have the same potency on the bezel as on the dial and hands. Dial and hands look good. I'm satisfied with the 5 to 6 layers. Bezel is disappointing, and they really need to improve upon this, because we're not looking at a below €100 low tier piece. This is €406 in the low tier. We're at the upper end. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, initially the exciter performs with potency. First minute ticks are indexed with dots, which is good. So legibility instantly looks good, but then it quickly fades on the bezel. The dial and hands looks better, so green colour tone match is good on the indices and the handset. Legibility is good. I like the symmetry of the dial with the date complication at 6. The problem here is the bezel. The BGW9 looks too dark. What they should have done was used a lighter tone of BGW9 and engraved the ceramic bezel insert deeper to allow for 5 to 6 layers, because it looks like they haven't engraved it deep enough and therefore they've only been able to inlay 3 to 4 layers, and this is the problem with 3 to 4 layers. You can see the bezel is fading quickly to nothing, so it's disappointing performance. Now, to put this into perspective, other low tier brands which are made in China, they are capable of doing it at the €80 price point, because, for example, the Steel Dive SD1953 has a fully Lume ceramic bezel insert. It's only €80, but it has stellar performance. 5 to 6 layers on the ceramic bezel insert, 5 to 6 layers on the indices, 5 to 6 layers on the dial. All 3 places have potent exciters, and that's the difference. That's only €80. This is €406. There's no excuse for Spinnaker not doing it if Steel Dive can do it at €80 on the SD1953 with a fully loomed ceramic bezel insert with BGW9 throughout. This is supposed to be Swiss Superluminova. The dial and hands look okay, but the bezel is dreadful. So disappointing. They really need to upgrade the bezel. Now, ideally, I'd like to see them upgrade it to C3. Use the same C3 Superluminova they're using on the dial and hands as on the bezel, because as I've detailed, I prefer watches just to use one colour lume, either green throughout or blue throughout. So C3 on the bezel, dial and hands, or BGW9 on the bezel, dial and hands, but not both. Because as you can see, there's a colour tone mismatch. We've got blue on the bezel, green on the dial and hands. It would look far better if they just used green on the bezel to match the dial and hands, but as I've said, this is subjective. Some collectors might like it. So bezel is poor performance, dial and hands are good and acceptable, so that's something to bear in mind. It's a shame. €406, this does not say to me €406. The bezel really looks like a low tier piece below €100. And as I've detailed, Steel Dive are capable of doing it at only €80. The BGW9 they're using is 5 to 6 layers. So disappointing. So let's discuss the movement used, because it's my favourite aspect of the piece. You'll all be familiar with the Seiko Caliber NH35A Automatic, one of my favourite movements. So it's made in Japan. It's been in service since 2011. It has 24 joules. It runs at 21,600 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 3 Hz. It has hand winding and hacking, which is used for complications, and a quick set date complication, which, as I've demonstrated, works well. Stated accuracy is -20 to +40 seconds per day, so rather wide accuracy range. 41-hour power reserve is perfectly acceptable. So hand winding works well, hacking works well, and quick set date complication works well. This one is running consistently at +4 seconds per day, which is excellent. +4 is well within the stated -20 to +40 seconds per day, and it clearly indicates Spinnaker are regulating the NH35As they're using in 5 positions to attain +4 from an NH35A. So accurate movements, it's reliable, well proven, a workhorse caliber, made in Japan. No negatives to it whatsoever. Now subjectively one could say the only negative is the second hand stutters or judders around the dial, because it runs at 3 Hz. It's not as smooth as a 4 Hz caliber such as the Miyota 9015, which runs at 28,800 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 4 Hz. I prefer 4 Hz sweeps because the second hand has a smoother sweep to it. 3 Hz sweep gives a stutter or judder, but I appreciate this is subjective. For the majority of collectors, they don't mind the stutter or judder of an NH35A running at 3 Hz. But there's no negatives to it other than that. It's reliable, it's well proven, it's been in service since 2011, so at this stage in 2025 it is well proven beyond question. Correct choice at this price point. One cannot expect to see a premium grade of Miyota caliber such as the 9015 at the €406 price point. At the €500 mid-tier price point, yes, one does start to see microbrands use Miyota 9000 series such as the 9015 and the 9039 respectively. But it is acceptable to still be using the NH35A at the €406 price point, so I'm not going to be critical of it. It's reliable, it's accurate, the quick set works well, manual winding works well, I like it. So last I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch meets 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So, low tier piece, price point is €406. I'm going to declare it okay quality and I'm going to declare it poor value at €406. So why do I say okay quality? Well, this is disappointing. The main disappointment is the sloppy end links, sloppy bracelet with push pins rather than screw pins, and this dreadful clasp, which is light pressed stainless steel. The light gauge, also the dreadful diver's extension link, which is abhorrent. This should be deleted, and it's also sloppy. The other problem is the embarrassing glaring error. Stainless steel is engraved upside down, and the pins. There's too much play. This is wholly unacceptable at €406, and it downgrades it from being excellent quality or good quality down to OK. So they really need to update the clasp to a micro adjustment clasp and also a ratcheting mechanism, and also delete this abhorrent diver's extension link. So OK quality. Now value is poor. The reason why I say it's not good or excellent value is at €406, this does face some stiff competition from other micro brands in the low tier. They are also using the NH35A, but they're getting it correct because the bracelet tolerances are tighter. They're using micro adjustment clasps with ratcheting mechanisms, which are higher grade. The micro adjustment clasp they're using at €406 say €406. This says to me below €100. So this downgrades it to poor value. Bracelet and clasp are not €406 level on this piece. The head of the piece is good quality, but they need to improve the quality of the BGW9 used on the ceramic bezel insert. As I've detailed, it's weak, and this is not acceptable at €406. Steel Dive are getting it correct. On the SD1953, it's only €80. 5 to 6 layers of BGW9 on the bezel. This does not have it at €406. So again, this downgrades it from excellent quality and excellent value to OK quality and poor value. So this needs refinement, and ideally I'd like to see Spinnaker come up with a V2 version in 40mm by 48 lug to lug with a perfection personified tape of 20 to 16 and update the clasp. That would make it an excellent quality and excellent value watch at €406. So I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Spinnaker Challenger Automatic Depth Blue version. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.